الله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. Event regarding Muslim fostering. And Alhamdulillah, I'm pleased to welcome both our guests, Uncle Naseem here from Rochdale and Brother Shadab from Bradford. So they'll be giving inshallah an introduction into the organization firsthand in order for you to learn more about how important and how should we go about in fostering. Myself, I am the Imam here in Needy Masjid. I will focus on a few points before passing it on to my brother here. And really the points which I would like to make very, very briefly is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, many times He Jalla wa ala mentions the orphans. Many times you see yatama, yatim, yatama, yatim. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we all know from the various hadiths of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, told us to treat the orphans with kindness. And the ironic thing is, there are two great prophets of Allah who were orphans. You probably know who they were. One was our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the other one was, any idea, anyone? No? Okay. Maryam gave birth to her child without a father, so he's also considered as a yatim. So a yatim is, in the Islamic term, is anyone who is without a father in his early teens or before his birth, as was the case of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He lost his father when he was still in the womb of his mother. As according to many of the scholars, they agree that this was the case, that Abdullah had left to Medina, and before returning back, he had actually fell ill and he died in Medina Munawwara. So two of the great prophets of Allah were yatim, were yatama, were orphans. And this really tells us a lot of this religion. Of all our history, we have cases of orphans, the poor, the needy, zakah. All these questions arise from the poverty-stricken, those who are less fortunate in the community. And it's really not just as from an Islamic perspective, but also as a human being, we should always be looking to better the community that we live in. Yeah, and this really involves both the Muslim and the non-Muslim side of things. You know, we shouldn't really, I mentioned this in my last week, that we shouldn't be selfish. That is just me, I'm a Muslim, and only concern is for Muslim. Especially when it comes to fostering, the Prophet ﷺ, when his mother who fostered him, because he still called her his mother, Halima. She came one day to Medina Munawwara, and he knew that this is my mother, and out of respect, he came down, greeted her, asked her, what is your need? And there was some need which she came from, which I won't go into because it's a long discourse. And he still had that respect for his mother, his fostering mother, his suckling mother, as it's called, Rida'a. And this is something we find in the Jahili time. There was a culture that if somebody adopted a son, they would call him his son, basically, even though he wasn't his biological son. And this is where the Quran came to distinguish between the two. Zayd ibn al-Haritha, you are all aware, was the adopted son of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there's an ayah which is revealed regarding this person, this Sahabi. And the Arabs used to, say that this is your son. He is Zayd ibn Muhammad. But the Quran came to distinguish that no, our Quran tells us that your biological parents remain your parents. That the Quran came to safeguard the nasl. So there are 5 objectives of the Sharia. One of them is to safeguard the genealogy, the nasl. Not to say that Quran doesn't require you to protect the rights of the children. This is the utmost duty that we have in a community, is that when we see someone in need, a child, or even if he's grown up and he needs our help, this is really upon us, that we help them in whatever way we can. And as a community, there's a lot we can do. Individually, there's not much we can do as a collective. But when we get together, when we join hands, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He brings the barakah into it. And this was really the Medinan way. This was how Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, many times if there was a problem in Medina, he would call his Sahaba, he would do shura amongst them, and he would ask them their opinion. And at the end of it, he would come to a conclusion, and he would decide that this is the best way forward. And it's known that they had a special quarter where the travelers would stay, and they would be fed, they would be looked after, and they would also be taught the religion. Ashabus Sufa. Something we should always look at, And really I'll finish on a very important point, is that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he gave glad tidings. We all know the hadith that he guaranteed Jannah for many people. But out of those many people is the one, and not just guaranteed Jannah, what did he say? He says that the one who looks after the orphan and I will be where? In Jannah, will be like this together. And he put his fingers together. This is how close you will be with the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam if you give the haqq to the orphans, the yatama, yatim. And it is a big responsibility. Brothers and sisters, I will not try to make it look all cozy and all flowery. It is a lot of work. But who says that Jannah is easy? Jannah requires a lot of work. Jannah, it needs striving. Jannah, it needs hard work. Yeah, and parenthood is a big responsibility. Not all of us will be good parents, but we all strive to be the best we can. We all care for our children. We provide them with food, with drinks, with education. The basic rights, we all strive. And really, the mercy that we have to our children, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has more mercy towards them. Yeah? He has more mercy towards them than even us. As parents, there's only so much we can do. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that His mercy encompasses everything. And He wants us to be like that in our life. He says, Ar-Rahimuna yarhamukum ar-Rahmanu tabaraka wa ta'ala, irham man fil ard, yarhamukum man fil sama. The Rahman, He is the most gracious, the most merciful. Yeah? He says, spread mercy on the land, and the one who is up there in the heavens, He will spread mercy upon you. So, irham man fil sama, arham man fil ard, yarhamukum man fil sama. This is something about spreading mercy and love, and we can do this inshallah as a combined, as one ummah in Rochdale. When we get together, inshallah, miracles can happen, with the barakah, with the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and by keeping our intention for the reward in the hereafter. Yeah, you might get some reward in this dunya, but the ultimate reward we Muslims will always strive for is the hereafter. Whatever we do, as individuals, as responsible people, as organizations, we always think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to reward us in the here. And this is what I want you to keep in mind, brothers and sisters, when you leave from here, is have this concern for the ummah, and also not just for yourself, but also for the non-Muslims around you, that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide them to our great deen, our beautiful deen. And this should be the concern. This is the concerns of the prophets, and there is no better work than according to the path of, and this is really a da'wah for you, brothers and sisters in Islam. This is according to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our task easy, and may He reward all of you for coming here, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala purify our intentions. The intention starts from the beginning. Once your intention is cleansed and is purified, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will gradually make the task easy for you. So I have said what I have said. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive me if I have wronged in any way, and may He bless us in this day and all of us until the day of judgment. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. I'll pass it on to my brother inshallah from the Muslim network.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Shadib. I work for this organization which is Mercy Mission. Alhamdulillah, this project, which is best known in the community as the Muslim Foster Network, was essentially established because we'd forgotten something in our Sunnah. This was something that at the time of our dear Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba, we would strive as Muslims to look after the orphans. However, in recent times, it's something that has been forgotten. It's a forgotten sunnah. And essentially, all of us have been very closely watching the media over the last 4 or 5 years, and we've seen the refugee crisis unfolding. At the peak of this in 2016, we had the situation of all of these poor people coming from Syria, various parts of Africa, Afghanistan, and trying to make that journey to Europe to improve their lives and to give them an opportunity to survive. And wherever you hear of people traveling, they always mention Great Britain. They have in their heart and their mind that we want to come to Britain. We want to come to this country that alhamdulillah Allah is blessed with so many beautiful masajids like this, so many great Muslim communities. And Muslims across the world know that they will find a community here somewhere that fits their lives, fits their language, fits their culture, fits their diet, and they will find comfort and ease. The reality, brothers, is you know, this treacherous journey that a lot of these refugees have made has brought them a lot of difficulty, and we've seen it on the media. You know, the rise in the views of the far right, the Brexit strategy that is currently at play. All of this is anti-migration. Yeah, all of this is not designed to become welcoming. Yeah, so you know, Mercy Mission as an organisation has been established in the UK since 2006. Alhamdulillah, we're a Muslim charity, and our work is always focused on the challenges in the UK. So, mashallah, we know that there's some brilliant charities here across the UK, be it Islamic Relief, Ummah Welfare Trust, or Al Khair, Muslim Aid, the list goes on and on. And mashallah, as a community, we give hundreds of millions of pounds every year towards good charity and good causes. Yeah, but quite often this will go internationally. So be it Syria, be it Afghanistan, be it sponsoring an orphan, be it famine, be it the dam that's been built in Pakistan, it's all international humanitarian. We quite often overlook the challenges within the communities that we live. Yeah? And gone are the days of the exit strategy that we had. You know, our fathers would say they're building the house back home and they're ready to move back at some time. Yeah? We are now third, fourth, so in some cases, you know, 50, 60 years into living in this country. So for those of who were born here, alhamdulillah, this is home. And this is where we have to establish our roots, and this is where we have to not only build our infrastructure, mashallah, as we have done, but also make use of that infrastructure for good use. So Mercy Mission has been particularly focused on building the UK-based projects. We started Al Kawthar, which is an education institute. Alhamdulillah, to date there's over 150,000 students across 50 cities who will benefit from Al Kawthar, and one of my trades brothers is here as well today, mashallah. And secondly, we built the Ramadan TV, which is one of the first Muslim TV channels that was started in the UK. We established National Zakat Foundation, which is a UK-based charity. It collects zakat in the UK and it pays it out in the UK. We also established Charity Right, which is a food aid program, and it looks after providing people in Africa and other parts of Asia, Bangladesh, etc., with food provision. So 10 years on into that journey, the Muslim Foster Network is the latest in a long line of, alhamdulillah, with Allah's blessing, successful projects that we've established here. So, mashallah, we already had a very strong network. And, you know, as the Imam Sahib was rightly pointing out, that, alhamdulillah, we have great blessings here in the community. You know, only 3 weeks ago, I was in Manchester for an event, a Muslim lifestyle show. Some of you may have been to that event, and we had a fantastic response. We had, I think, over 50 or 60 people they registered their details wanting to get involved in the project. So we reached out to Cheadle Mosque. Mashallah, we know Imam Abid there, and he gave us a booking for this evening. So after today, inshallah, we're going to go to Cheadle. We have an event there after Isha. And I said to him, look, Cheadle is quite far for some of the brothers and sisters who live in the north. So can we do an event somewhere in the north? Where do you suggest? And he suggested your masjid here, mashallah, and within a matter of days, Brother Imran had responded to my message, and they provided us this space to come here and speak to you. So alhamdulillah, you know, as a community, mashallah, we're very well connected. We have a very strong brotherhood, and when we are able to strive in Allah's path and the intention is good, then Allah brings barakah in the work that we do. Yeah. So the reality is that here, mashallah, we already have 50 or 60 people that have come out of their own personal time to come and listen about this project and what they can do. And essentially the cause here is to look at how we as a community can support children who are in care. So what you have is the domestic population of Muslims in this country, our children go into care. The refugee children who have come from other parts of the world, they have also been taken into care. So as of April 2017, there was 4,250 unaccompanied refugee children living in care, vast majority with non-Muslims. Yeah, vast majority living with non-Muslims. Secondly, we also have a huge domestic population. We are close to around 3 million people, Muslim people, across the UK, Mamsal. So the current population of children in care is 80,000. Yeah, 80,000 children are in care. This is across all communities, not just the Muslim community, across all communities. Yeah. However, one of the challenges we have is that when a child goes into care in this country, they record their ethnicity, they don't record their faith. So it's not a statutory obligation on the local authority to record the faith. So this brings us some challenges, because really we don't know exactly how many Muslim children are in care. Okay. However, what I have seen, like we work very closely in Bradford, Manchester, Birmingham, London, and the big cities, what I've seen is that the population of children in care, is reflective of the domestic population. Yeah. So here in Rochester, I don't know what your statistics are.
30,000 Muslims.
30,000.
30,000. Okay. So as a percentage, you're probably about 12 to 15% of the overall population. Yeah. So what we'll probably see is that the number of children in care will be reflective. Like in Bradford, we have about 1,000 children in care. The Muslim population in Bradford is 25% of the overall population.
How is it similar?
Yeah, so there's about 250 to 300 Muslim children in care. Okay. Then, if you look at the refugee children, as I said, April last year there was 4,250 refugee children in care. So, based on our calculation, it's not precise, but our estimate is that there's somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 Muslim children in care today. 6,000 to 7,000, and about 50%, half of them are with non-Muslim carers. Okay, so as a community, who should take responsibility for this? Yeah. So when a child goes into care, it's the responsibility of the local authority to find them a suitable house. Okay. When we hear this type of information, you'll see on this leaflet here, it says that in February 2016, in one borough in London, Brent, 44 Muslim children went into care, and there was only 4 Muslim foster carers. Okay. So only 1 in 10 Muslim children in care in that particular month were able to be placed with Muslim families. Yeah. So this is the size and the scale of the challenge that we have. It's huge. Yeah. So our work is twofold. Number one, we support individuals such as yourself who are interested in fostering and adoption, and we introduce you to the right organizations. Okay. So in this case, it might be the local authority, or it might be an independent fostering agency. Yeah, you're not compelled to go with any one of them. It's entirely your choice. Okay, and we will direct you based upon your circumstances, your situation, and who the local contacts here and what our relationship is like with them. Yeah, so for the actual subject of fostering, when a child goes through a difficult situation, the family goes through a difficult situation, the local authority steps in. This could be for a number of reasons, yeah? Poor health of the parents, drug addictions, alcohol abuse, physical abuse of children, neglect, trauma, the PREVENT program, the list goes on and on, okay? These are all scenarios that can lead to children going into care, okay? Once that child goes into care, the local authority will then try to find a suitable home for them. So the local authority is responsible for recruiting their own foster carers. Okay. However, what we have seen in the UK is generally most local authorities struggle to get enough foster carers. Yeah? They never have enough. So they recruit from independent foster agencies. So for some of you who might have done your research, you might have come across organizations in this area that provide fostering support. Basically, they are like almost like a recruitment consultancy. So they will do the same thing as a local authority. They will take you through the same process. But then essentially, the child, if the local authority can't place with their own foster carer, then they will outsource to this agency. So you could be working for the local authority, you could be working for the agency. Okay? The basic requirements for somebody to become a foster carer Number one, you need to have a spare bedroom, because all children who go into care must have their own room. Okay, this is for safeguarding issues. So it's not an option for them to share with your children. However, let's say if you have a sibling group, they can share. Okay. Number two, you need to have a decent level of English. Yeah. So your English doesn't need to be perfect, but you need to be able to read and write to a decent level of English, because as a foster carer, there's a number of responsibilities, including reporting, attending training, advocating on behalf of the child. So you need to be competent enough to do this. Okay. Number three, you can't have any criminal record in regards to abuse of children. Okay. Number four, you need to have a decent level of health. Yeah. And these are, I could say, unless I've missed anything, Uncle, these are the main points, right? If you meet these basic criteria, okay, then you're able to progress to the next stage. Yeah. So let's say here today, inshallah, if some of you register your details with us, the next step will be that one of the sisters from the office that will call you after today, and you'll normally have a 15 to 20 minute interview. Okay. During that interview process, we'll ask you lots of questions. We'll show you'll have lots of questions to ask us. Once we get through that phone call, we'll then be able to advise you of what your position is and whether you can move forward or not based on your circumstances. Yeah. And it might be that, you know, you've got children who are growing up, mashallah, they might be heading off to uni, or they might be getting married. Circumstances at home might be changing. You might be moving to a new house, building an extension. There's lots of reasons why you might not be suitable now, but you may be suitable in 6 months or a year or 2 years. So we say everyone is suitable, just their current circumstances and the timing might not be right. Okay. So we would always encourage you to register your details, whether you feel like you're ready or not now, and we can then say, well, let's call you back in 6 months, or let's call you back after a year. Okay. If you, inshallah, are in a position where you could move forward, so you meet all the basic criteria, you've had the telephone interview, the next step would be that we would have a conversation with you about if you would like to go through to the local authority, or if you would rather go with a private agency. Okay. And there is no great difference to the process. Yeah. However, what we have seen from our own experience is that independent foster agencies, they don't have the same pressure as the local authorities. They're not affected by the austerity measures and the cuts in budgets and everything else. So they move very fast. Okay. So sometimes we can see that local authorities can be a little bit more slower in their process. However, alhamdulillah, me personally, I'm more than happy to work with the local authority or with an independent foster agency. However, our relationship with them is that we ensure that the opportunity that you get is as fair as anyone else. Okay, so that you're treated fairly. The type of questions that you're asked are with respect to you as a Muslim. If you're not able to progress, you get the feedback as to why you're not able to progress, because we have seen from certain local authorities across the UK that their engagement process with the Muslim community is not acceptable. The way in which Muslim foster carers have complained about contacting the local authority, not getting a response, having a home visit, not moving forward. So there can be challenges, and for us, we're not saying that this is a negligible situation. We're saying that we're working with the local authority to ensure that when we make a referral, that individual gets a fair chance, and if there's any challenges or issues, that local authority gives you the appropriate feedback. Yeah. Because for us as an organisation, alhamdulillah, we're a national organisation, we have to look at the bigger picture. And what we have to look at is, why is it so challenging? Yeah. So if there's 80,000 children in care and about 50,000 foster carers, why is there always a shortage of 7,000-8,000 foster carers? Okay. Alhamdulillah, it's reasonably well played. Yeah. As Imam Sahib was saying, that this is a wonderful thing to do and there's great blessings in it. Yeah. Not only are you paid in this world, inshallah, you're also paid in the akhirah. Yeah. And from our perspective, this is something special that we feel that all of you here can have some role to play. Some of you, inshallah, can go forward to become foster carers. For those of you who are not suitable and your current circumstances don't allow you to, you can become mentors. So we have a specialist mentor program that supports refugee children living in care, and particularly where we have a Muslim child staying with a non-Muslim carer, we try to pair them with a mentor who can help them through that process. Okay. Then we also have the opportunity for people who want to volunteer and people who want to become local champions. My colleague who was here earlier, Zim, he just stepped in for me as I had to be somewhere else. And this evening after this, I have another event to go to, right? So what we don't want to do is control this project ourselves and just have one or two people trying to run around and cover the whole country. We would love brothers and sisters to come forward and say, you know, Bismillah, I can do this locally. I can raise awareness, I can talk to my friends, I can talk to my family, I can give them your number, and then we can move forward in the process from there. Yeah. So, alhamdulillah, this is, you know, a quick summary, I guess, yeah, overall of who we are, what the challenges are, what the project does, yeah, and bear in mind for us, although we feel that it would be best for a Muslim child to be placed in a Muslim household, ideally within their identity and culture, so it becomes a natural environment for them. We fully support non-Muslim carers who are looking after Muslim children. Yeah. So this guide, there's some copies at the back, feel free to take this with you. This guide that we put together, alhamdulillah, was basically put together for non-Muslims looking after Muslim children. So this year we distributed 3,000 of these to local authorities across the UK. Yeah. Just over in the windowsill there, I'll just grab that one. So basically this box is something that we distributed during Eid and Ramadan. Okay, so when you get an opportunity, please take a look at this box. As you can see, this one is done for Lewisham Council. It was sponsored by BCBN. Within the box, you know, we have a box of chocolates, some dates, some information about Ramadan, because and there's some decorations and stuff in here. Because what we feel is that, you know, these times of the year, be it Eid, be it Ramadan, they're very special occasions, and when you've got a refugee child who might have travelled from Syria or Afghanistan, is used to a very strict environment where they hear the adhan every day, and Islam is just a natural part of that environment. When they end up in some random person's house who doesn't understand their culture, doesn't understand their identity, that person might be willing to support them, but they just don't have the knowledge or information. Okay? So we produce this guide and gift box to firstly show appreciation to that carer, that alhamdulillah, as a community we appreciate what you're doing, to show that child some love, that there is a community that is there and we are concerned about you, and also to introduce the masajid and the local community, so that, you know, during Ramadan and Eid, alhamdulillah, in Bradford, London, other parts of the country, we had events during Ramadan where non-Muslim carers were able to bring their Muslim children. They were able to be introduced to the Imam Sahib at the masjid, so that if they have any challenges, that we can support them through that process. So alhamdulillah, these are the main points that I wish to cover. Inshallah, we will go on to a Q&A, and I'll just pass back over to Imam Sahib. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you for your coming here and benefiting our congregation, inshallah. Just one thing I forgot to mention in my introduction, that there is a word in Arabic which is called kafala. You might have heard of this word, kafala. So kafala in Islam, in Sharia, means to take someone under your guardianship, either up till the age of puberty or beyond. And there are restrictions, there are terms and conditions of each one, which we will go into, inshallah, with each individual case, inshallah. So this is something you shouldn't stop you at this time, that what is the difference between adoption, fostering, but the main word in Arabic is kafala. And this is something which was customary in the Arab world, and also Islam. It is well known that various Sahabas were taking under different Sahabas kafala and vice versa. So this is something which was common practice amongst the early Muslims, and even up to the later generation. And something which I forgot to mention, very, very important, because there is this misconception about fostering, and alhamdulillah, inshallah, with these events and with the du'as of your brothers and sisters in Islam, maybe we can, inshallah, try to erase this misconception and make it clear in the minds that really we should be in the forefront. We should be the ones who are championing these cases, fostering, needy, zakat, all these are things which we should watch. So I'll pass it on to my uncle Naseem Shah, who's a local foster parent. Jazak khair to him, and Allah subhanahu reward him and his family for all the efforts which he has put up over these years. And inshallah, he will go through a few things. If there's any questions that you want to ask, please feel free to ask the question, inshallah. Jazakallah, uncle.
Bismillah. I wish you call me brother instead of uncle.
Oh, brother, I'm going to say.
My name is Naseem Khan, and I've been fostering for just over 10 years now. Firstly, when I started, I had no qualifications, and I was actually working in engineering firm, but my wife Fawzia was working with children in a nursery and also in a creche. So she had some experience of working with children. I also part-time worked with young people, youth work. So I had experience of working with young people. And my wife was having some difficulty, with paperwork at work. They were bringing in a lot of paperwork. So she thought, we'll look into working from home and fostering. Yeah. So we looked into local authority and a national company that was fostering at the time. This is 10 years ago. The local authority had, at that time, did not have a good reputation, so we made inquiries with the national firm. They had an office in Manchester and one office in Ashton. They didn't have an office in Rochester. Anyway, we were interviewed, we filled in a form, and then we were allocated a social worker who interviewed us. And basically they gathered information about our background, our work experience, education, and lifestyles, because later on that impacts on fostering. So I would say with 7 to 8 weeks training, and then my my daughter's wedding came up, so it took 3-4 months, and we were approved, and we were both working, and they basically said, this national firm said that one of us will have to stop working. Some local authorities don't require that. You can carry on working and still foster. But this firm said that one of us will have to stop. So I decided that when the time came, I will resign from my work, and my wife wanted to carry on working until the end of her contract with the children. And she was working part-time anyway. She was home by 12:30. So they said, you were approved for one child from, at that time, we said a primary school age. So that's between 2 to 11. But you can foster from birth to 18 years, yeah, depending on your circumstances. But my wife was comfortable with, she said, I don't want a baby, we want between 2 to 11, and they agreed. So after about 4 weeks, I was actually at work, and my wife phoned that we are in an emergency, 3 children are coming to you. So, and after school, the social worker took them to her own office and then brought them to our house. And I basically picked up my bag and came home 4:30, and I never went back to work then. And I never miss it. Although I spent 19 years with this firm. And these were 3 children from age from 2 years. A boy was 2-year-old, a girl was a 7-year-old, and another girl was 10-year-old. And they were of Bangladeshi origin. The reason I'm saying this, I'll come back to that in a minute, because there is a higher, much higher cases of child care in Pakistani and Bangladeshi community than other local communities. And the local authority has, it's not a legal obligation, but they have a guideline to place children with cultural, linguistic and religious match. Yeah? So these children were placed with us. And when they came, usually, they were in their school uniform, they were, I need to be honest here and frank, they were dirty, the uniform was smelling, they had lice, and later we found out they had, you know, when they, first thing they do is they have a psychological and physical examination, and they were iron deficient. They had a deficiency of iron. So my wife, you know, give them a bath, and we went to Asda and we bought new clothes and uniform, and we basically started from there. And you know, there are some misconceptions and myths in our community that the local authority, you know, they try and remove the children and do all sorts of things, but their main aim is to keep the children safe and in a secure environment where their emotional and psychological and physical needs are met. And in short term or long term, their goal is to take the children back to their families. So alhamdulillah, in this case, the children, normally the social services apply for, they have to go to court to get a court order. They got the court order for these children for 6 months, and then they have to reapply. Yeah? And after 3 months, or in fact the first review, they have a review every now and then, and the parent of the birth parents are invited, and the mother in this case was had depression, so the father did come to the review, and we met up, and also I had to take the children, they were from Oldham, so I had to keep them, taking them to Oldham school. So there are some challenges, but there are some rewards as well. You know, where we were very happy that after 18 months, they only came for 3 months, it took them 18 months to rehabilitate. And we were very lucky, and alhamdulillah, the mother was still mentally ill, but the father managed to get training. He had an assessment. The children's grandmother were assessed, and they went back to the family. I actually, myself and my wife actually went to drop them off to their home. So that was a good ending. And then we had a holiday, and then we were given another 3 children in an emergency. And since I was with this company for 4 years. This is private company. And you know, you are in terms of payment, what they call allowances. For every child, you receive an allowance, and it could be from £150 to more, depending on the circumstances, your qualifications, the need of the children. If the child has a special need, there are, you know, more allowances. So after 4 years, because all the children in my case were coming from Oldham, so we decided, and I had to go for training to Ashton, and some of the meetings were in Ashton, and they also brought in a lot of paperwork. We used to report the first week we write down every day what the child did, what they ate, how they slept, and all and then you keep recording for every month. And then they brought in this from America, this paper with 30 questions. And then myself and wife decided that since we are with the children from Oldham, we decided to go with the local authority. And this is a very smooth process. They've agreed what they call the National Fostering Guidelines, that they allow you to change. So we are now with the Oldham local authority, and they are very good network, social workers, child psychologists, and other support. They have a good, very good team. I don't have information about Rydal, but I hear that since 10 years, Rydal has improved much, much more. And they're a good team now, so people can, you know, consider them. And at the moment, we've had children all ages, from 2 to 15, 16. So we've had teenagers, and they have their own challenges. And I'm not pretending here that it's all easy. And some children came from neglect. They were relatively easy to look after. Some children are disturbed. In fact, we had a child whose mother was killed. So, and traumatized. And we looked after him for 3 weeks, and alhamdulillah, he went back to his father. So we've had a girl, 15-year-old from Nottingham, because she was having a lot of difficulty running away from home and all kinds of things. So the social services thought that she should be far away from home. So we looked after her for 7 months, and alhamdulillah, she went back to the family. So at the moment, I have now long-term children. The children can be placed with you short-term, few weeks, few months. This child came to us 2.5-year-old. Now she's, mashallah, 8-year-old. So they're going to be with us till they're 16, because their parents, they applied to court for guardianship and all kinds of things. But the court assessed that they cannot meet their emotional needs, so the child will be with us till at 16. They will ask them what they want to do, and they can stay with us until they're 16. The other child was 7 when she came with other siblings, 3 siblings, but they had 2 different fathers. One father had died, so the family decided to take them all 3, but unfortunately one child remained with us, and she's now 14, mashallah. So they will be with us until they're 16 or 18. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer. And if you want to meet me afterwards and ask me some personal question, I'll be very happy to answer. And inshallah ta'ala, when people put their names down and come forward, my wife will be also come to see some ladies if they wish to do that. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Naseem. It was inspiring, and also it brings you back to reality. You know, as a Muslim ummah, what we are facing. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us all from this reminder and this get together. And may Allah subhanahu allow us to do better in our field of work, whatever capacity we are at. Each one of us has different abilities, different responsibilities, and we must all fulfill our responsibilities, especially as parents, you know, as part of the community. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to the straight path. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward us in abundance in the hereafter in this dunya as well, inshallah. So we'll take some questions from sisters and brothers. For anyone, if you want to ask any question, we'll pass the mic around. Otherwise, you can ask it without the mic, inshallah. Jazakallah. Do you have any questions? I'm sure you have loads of questions.